Well, we're continuing with day 3, and here we are at one of the famous musical landmarks, the Rock and Soul Museum. Inside, just to put it in context of where it is and where we are, straight across the road is the, oh, you can see that with the sun, the Gibson Guitar Factory. It's another tour we're going to do. And right next door is the hotel we're staying in, the Western Hotel. That's how close we are. And just down there, the first junction we come to down there is actually Beale Street. So that gives us a really superb little clip of how well placed or located the hotel is for us. The Rock and Soul Museum is actually advertised as should be your starting point in terms of getting to grips with the music scene in Memphis, because it wasn't only about rock and roll, it was also about the blues and country. So the Rock and Soul Museum is a museum. It's a tribute to all different kinds of music in Memphis and Tennessee, and Memphis, I suppose, is rightly called the heart of American music because of that. So we're going to do the tour, and after that we've got a nice event up in Main Street. It's called a block party, and it's an open air sort of party and market and so on and so forth. So we'll go up there after we've been through the Rock and Soul Museum. Well, we're now inside the Rock and Soul Museum, and it's fantastic. It's all about the coming together of country, gospel, jazz and blues music from the rural farming lands of Tennessee, eventually ending up in Memphis, of course. But one of the reasons I'm doing this little bit of video is we're in the museum right now, and I'm going to point up and hopefully we'll be able to see the name of a town just called Marion, would you believe? This caught my eye, and we thought we'd just make a little video clip at this point. But the museum, as you can see, is really all about the old history of the cotton fields coming together, as I said, of country music, blues, jazz and gospel, eventually rock and roll, when it was, you know, sort of made that way by the white guys and became commercialised and so on and so forth. But this has been really great so far, and we're only about a quarter of the way around it, so it's going to be an interesting record to make, an interesting experience, and I'm glad we came again. We're now at the really interesting part of the museum. It gets better as it goes on. We're up to the Sam Phillips era now. There's Elvis. Sam Phillips has just said in his interview, when he heard him, he could have like somebody stick him up the backside with a razor sharp pitchfork. There's Carol Perkins performing for Sam Phillips. Across there's Ike Turner's original piano they learned on. As I say, it's getting really a bit almost better as it goes on. Across here we can see Roy Orbison in the Sam Phillips era as well. So it's been a real kind of learning experience as well, because I didn't realise how all the different roots and strands and threads of music had come together. Black music traditionally came together as kind of white man's music. Still a little bit to go, so it's going to be even more interesting, I think. Well, I couldn't do video clips of the Rock and Soul Museum without this section, which is dedicated to Elvis. Some original Elvis pieces here, the jacket and shirt, and even shoes we can't see because they're Marion in actual fact down here. The original Elvis shoes, original guitar, and we're going to see an awful lot more of this at Graceland, I know, but this is just the Elvis centrepiece in the Rock and Soul Museum, and you can see Marion is really enjoying listening to the music Elvis is singing at this particular point in time. Well, we're now in the final hall of the museum, and it's been absolutely fascinating. It's not only been the history of, you know, rock and soul, as we said at the beginning, which is, you know, country, jazz, blues, and folk, and it's been a social history as well, right up through the civil rights. But in this final hall, it's kind of interesting because it's brought us up to date with the Beatles, and I'm reading here, nothing really affected me until I heard Elvis. John Lennon once said, if it hadn't been Elvis, there would never have been the Beatles. So that's kind of interesting. Sort of, you know, final closing thought on what we've just seen. But it's been a really, really, you know, fascinating walk through, I say, not just the history of rock and soul, but also the social history of the south end of the world. So we're going to move on now, but I'm sure Manny is glad we came as well, and we'll go on and do our next thing.